This legendary rocker was part of an underground band first and then became a household name when she recorded a cover of a B-side that went straight to #1 in the early 80s, one of the biggest hits of that year. We celebrate her rebel spirit and her top 5 songs next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you are truly passionate about music, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel below so you don't miss out on an episode, as we're now a daily channel. Now today we have another episode of our show, VOX, where we celebrate a great vocalist from the rock era. You know, someone who has ignited our hearts, enlightened our very souls, and blown our minds with their incredible instrument. This segment isn't so much about if they physically wrote the music and the lyrics of the song. It's about how they gave life to the song through the power and the passion of their interpretation. You know, I can never say enough about the intrepid Joan Jett. She is truly a paragon of courage, integrity, and perseverance. Joan battled insolvency, sexism, rejection, and more in a relentless pursuit to fulfill her dream. She possesses a tenacity rarely seen in today's world of lethargy and unjustified entitlement. I mean, no one handed Joan anything. She put blood, sweat, and tears into everything she's ever achieved. And she's more than a singer, a guitar player, or an icon. She's a superhero. Now, Joan was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and she received her first guitar at the age of 14. That first guitar ignited the passion that would become her destiny, to become a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee and what many of her peers call the Queen of Rock and Roll and the godmother of punk. Joan's path to stardom was full of trials and tribulations, but she would not be denied. At 15, she formed a band that became the Runaways, which were 5 teenage girls who rebelled against the status quo, performing music that had a punk attitude and an unabashed boldness that the music industry had not seen, especially during a time when disco reigned supreme in the mid-70s. The Runaways broke up in 1979, and Joan pushed forward to begin her solo career. Now, with the expert navigation of her longtime manager and crusader, Kenny Laguna, Joan created her solo debut, which included an early version of I Love Rock and Roll. The album was rejected by 23 labels in the US, and in her inimitable style, Joan went the DIY route and released the album independently on a label that she and Kenny created, dubbed Blackheart Records. The album built steady traction, and soon Joan and Kenny couldn't keep up with the demand to press more copies, so they signed a deal with Neil Bogart's Boardwalk Records. The self-titled Joan Jett album came out in 1980 and was later renamed Bad Reputation when it was re-released in 1981 on Boardwalk. It was at that time that Joan put her backing band together after exhausting auditioning sessions. The act became Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Joan's breakout came in late 1981 with the release of her second album, I Love Rock and Roll, that featured, of course, one of the most memorable songs ever recorded in Joan's remake of Alan Merrill and Jake Hooker's penned I Love Rock and Roll. Joan's version went straight to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was the third biggest song in 1982. The I Love Rock and Roll album sold more than 10 million copies around the world, and Joan became one of the most sought-after figures for music and film. Now, Joan has released 14 studio albums and 44 singles over her music career as a solo artist or with the Blackhearts, and has broken the top 20 on the Billboard Hot 100 5 times. In 2006, Joan was inducted into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. She also received the Nancy Alexander Activist Award in 2012 for her work on behalf of animal welfare. She was given the AP Icon Award and the Golden God Award in 2014. The thing about Joan's voice is it's pure rock and roll, urgent, aggressive, and chock full of piss and vinegar, punk attitude, and hard rock rage. You know, slaps you around for a few seconds, and then it knocks you out with the dual uppercut of her soul-galvanizing guitar and full-throttle vocal. I mean, nobody sounds like Joan Jett. I was ecstatic when Joan was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2015 along with her Blackhearts. It was an honor that she so richly deserved, especially since rock and roll is supposed to be about breaking barriers, snubbing your nose at the establishment, and as Jack Black said in the movie School of Rock, sticking it to the man. Joan did that better than anyone, and she continues to fight for the underdog. The bottom line is that Joan Jett helped engineer the door that every female rocker is walking through right now. Now, that being said, here's my Joan Jett fiver, my top 5 recorded performances. Number 5, I Love Playing with Fire. Start to finish, this is just renegade Joan Jett that she originally wrote back when she was with the Runaways. This song is bad to the bone. Number 4, Cherry Bomb.
Cherry Bomb! Hello world, I'm your wild girl.
Written by Joan and Kim Fowley, who was the manager of the Runaways when the song was released as a single in 1976. The song was written about Runaways lead singer Cherie Currie and was the signature song for the Runaways. Joan later recorded her own version in 1984. Number 3, from 1988, I Hate Myself for Loving You. A number 8 smash on the Billboard Hot 100 and a number 20 rock track. Joan co-wrote the song with renowned lyricist and producer Desmond Child. I remember the first time I heard this on the radio. I went right out and bought it. I remember the album cover of Joan all in black leather. It rocked my world. Former Rolling Stones guitarist Mick Taylor played the solo on this one, and it was also nominated for a Grammy for Best Rock Performance by a duo or group with vocal. Number 2, I Love Rock and Roll. One of the all-time sing-along rockers ever. Number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 1 in Canada, Sweden, New Zealand, Austria, among others, and a number 1 rock track. Now, the original version by the group The Arrows was a B-side to the single Broken Down Heart. It was a lightly regarded tune at best, but while Joan was in England in 1976, she saw The Arrows perform I Love Rock and Roll on an episode of the UK television series Pop 45. And it left a lasting impression on her. She was determined to do her own version when she had the opportunity. This was one of the first rock and roll records I remember hearing as a child. I was like 5 years old when it was climbing the charts, but I knew every word. Now, at the local pizza place in the small town I grew up in, they had a big jukebox with all the popular songs, and every time we go there, I'd literally beg my dad to put another dime in the jukebox to play this song. I couldn't get enough. It's so classic. And number 1, Bad Reputation. Co-written by Joan and her longtime manager and close friend Kenny Laguna, along with Richie Cordell and Marty Joe Coopersmith. It's a certified gold single that was released as the lead single from her aforementioned solo debut album in 1980. If Marlon Brando's character from the film The Wild One was a song, it'd be this one. This song is so full of rock and punk attitude. It was used as the theme song to the classic cult TV show Freaks and Geeks, of course introducing its genius to a whole new generation. It's also the name of the riveting 2018 documentary chronicling Joan Jett's journey. It is a must-see for any music fan or anyone who enjoys motivational nonfiction. There's a link below to see it, as well as a playlist to all the music we've discussed here. There's also links to all of Joan's albums on vinyl. Suggest you pick them up. Joan Jett epitomizes a true rock and roll hero. Thank you, Joni, for your music, your brazen spirit, and the inspiration you've given us to not let anything stand in the way of getting what you want. Now, if you like this content, subscribe below to help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.